Views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Supernatural, metaphysical, paranormal. You know, all those things you've been wondering about? Are you ready to go deeper into the realms of the unknown? I hope you've got your walking shoes on, because life is an adventure, and this is the journey. Come on, let's go. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and hey, we're the She-Squatchers. I'm Jen Cruz. We've got our trusty teammate, Jenna Grover. Hi, Jenna.
Well, hello, everyone. Nice to be here tonight, and great guests tonight.
Yes. And, of course, we wouldn't be complete without our Tammy Trickle.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Tammy. So tonight we have it's almost like an extension of last week's show when we had Blake from the Lost Cryptids Conservatory. Now we've got a couple of other guys also from Lost Cryptids Conservatory. We've got a father and son team. We've got Josh and Todd Parsons. Welcome to the show, guys. Are you there?
We are here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Yeah. So for our listeners, which one of you would like to tell us first how you got interested, or should I say hooked on Bigfoot?
Josh, well, go ahead.
Well, I would have to say it was my encounter in Texas that really got me interested. And I was interested in the subject growing up because, my father was too, so I'd be reading the books he used to read. He'd have on his bookshelf about the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and that kind of stuff. And then, we went backpacking and hiked into the Sam Houston National Forest, and we heard multiple, I'd say, creatures whooping all around us, and this went on almost all night long. And we watched documentaries. We were on the BFRO sites, and we've heard whoops before, but never out in the woods like that. And I know me and my dad looked at each other and we like, no way. So that's what really got me hooked into the subject.
Well, that's really awesome.
So one whoop did it. You were like, okay, I heard a whoop, don't know what it is. I have to dedicate my time. This is a passion.
Yeah, and the thing about it, and I've never come across anything like that before either. It was multiple whoops from different directions, and this went on all night long. And I've never heard anything like that before, and it kind of just intrigued me as to why they would do this.
He's not telling you he was scared to death that night. He had that fire going all night long.
Yeah, I had the fire going all night long.
Oh, funny. Those fires are fabulous, I have to say.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Todd, why don't you tell us your side of that story?
Well,
yeah.
I'll back up a little bit and say I followed. I guess I was, like Josh said, I was interested in the Loch Ness Monster and all the unknown UFOs. I used to, in school and junior high, I would get books. I think Bigfoot was the one I had the most interest in, and I used to write people like Peter Byrne. I don't know if you remember his name, and he had shows back in the 70s about Sasquatch, and of course, there was In Search Of, and Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of, and they did a special on Sasquatch, and I was just fascinated. And over the years, I just, I read books and checked them out, and just read everything I could get my hands on. And over the years, I kind of had, I went through my phases where sometimes I'm like, nah, this is just a bunch of bull, and sometimes I'd have other times, well, it's got to be something to this. Well, I remember back in, I don't know what year that was, probably maybe 2003, when Jimmy Chilcutt, the Conroe police officer, who was an expert in fingerprint dermal ridges, and he went out and I don't remember why, but he got interested in the different types of prints, different types of primate prints, and he went and did samples on all the different types of primates, on gorillas and different types of monkeys and all that, and started identifying the differences between the primates and the differences with their dermal ridges, and how every primate had specific characteristics to their footprints. And somehow he got tied into I think it was one of Jeff Meldrum's specials that he saw about Sasquatch, and he reached out to Jeff and said, "Man, I'd like to look at all these prints you have." And he went up there, and I think he fully intended on finding out it was just a bunch of hoax prints. Well, he saw some characteristics in those dermal ridges that just he said there was no way to deny that they were real, because there's specific characteristics, such as when they're walking and they cut their foot, it causes a specific type of scar on the dermal ridges, and you can't fake something like that. And so when he came out and when they started doing interviews with him, I was like, it was like I came out of my shell again, back in the subject, and just got totally interested in it, because to me that authenticated, the fact that they were real creatures. And it wasn't long after that of course, being an outdoorsy, me and my sons Josh and Joseph were always very outdoorsy, and went to Colorado every year, four-wheeling, did all kinds of stuff. So hunted. I decided I wanted to backpack, so I bought backpacking gear one Christmas of 07, as a matter of fact, or no, 06. It was Christmas of 06, because it was 07 when we went out to Sam Houston. Well, I went on to, of course, by then, internet's out. Once internet came out, there was just a wealth of information on the subject. You had the BFRO website, you had other research groups that had websites out there, and the BFRO always had a decent database that they published. So I went out and looked at Sam Houston, and I started reading the different accounts and locations, looking at locations in Sam Houston where people had sightings. And there was a specific wilderness area out there that there had been several sightings. So me and the boys decided to go backpacking out there one night. Went out there for one night. I really didn't expect anything to happen. That's why I was just totally shocked. And of course, the boys were familiar with the subject somewhat, because of me. And so when we got out there and set up camp and those whoops started, I don't know, it was right at dark when they started up. And it was pretty obvious there was at least 3 of them. And it was, to me, quite obvious they were communicating to each other, because they were moving around. And I think they were using those whoops to kind of locate, to show their partners where they were at.
Do you feel like they knew where you were, and maybe that's why they were doing it? Or do you think they had no idea?
I feel like they were watching us. I think they were I think they were curious, and I think they were watching us, but while they were watching us, they were just kind of keeping each other informed where they were located. That's the feeling I got. And they weren't aggressive whoops. Like, you hear some of the recordings I hear sound a little more aggressive than others, but I never felt threatened at all. I just felt like they were just curious, watching us, moving around, keeping an eye on us. I was surprised, and when I first heard it, I knew right away. I mean, I'd heard recordings, so I couldn't think of, based on the recordings and my knowledge of animals that, the different types of mammals that are in Texas. I couldn't think of anything else it could be. It was too strong to have been anything like a bird. Some people said, well, maybe some type of bird. No, it was too powerful. It wasn't super loud, but you know how you can tell there's power behind a vocal, even if it's not loud.
Oh, yes.
But I was pretty surprised how long it went, because it went way into the night and never got, like I said, never got any more aggressive. I'm sure they probably got up pretty close and we didn't even know it.
Isn't that exciting?
It was, and we've been out. We've been out since then. Of course, a lot of the research that I do, Josh was located in Michigan. Of course, I'm down here in Texas, and so I have a group. I don't know if you've heard of T.A.A.P.S. I do a lot with a group called T.A.A.P.S. Texas Acknowledgement, Awareness, and Preservation of Sasquatch. So we do a lot together, and we get out to Sam Houston and the Big Thicket. So we've got quite a few expeditions we're scheduling to come up this next year. But summer, forget it. None of us want to get out in the summer.
I don't blame you. It is
not
hot.
fun. It is. Yeah.
Hot. How are the mosquitoes down there?
Oh, they're
like this big.
Yeah, they weigh.
I've been down to Texas. He's not lying, but I don't know if they were real mosquitoes though. Were they? Those great big mosquito-looking type.
Well,
the mosquito hawks.
Hawks, yeah, they eat mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're actually friendly. Yeah, they look kind of scary, but they're friendly and they eat mosquitoes.
I love them. Okay, next time
I have a question about the mosquitoes then. So, mosquitoes are like the Minnesota state bird, pretty much. Are they bigger than our mosquitoes, Jenna?
Well, the mosquito hawks are. Those suckers look like a mosquito on like steroids. Those are huge. But no, I mean they're pretty much the same size. It's
okay.
Ours are just a little bit more bloodthirsty. You guys down in Texas have no idea. Minnesota, North Dakota mosquitoes are so bloodthirsty. If you have any skin showing, they'll just dive right in. It doesn't matter. They'll die in the diving just to get your blood. It's terrible.
There have been times we drove to one of our research sites, and at a time of year that we had been there before, right? We drove up in there and the mosquitoes attacked the car before we even opened a door. We're like, we can't even see through the window.
Oh my God.
We're not getting out.
It's off work with that many mosquitoes?
It's off. Even if we tried to take camera or video or something, they'd be all over the camera. There's no way.
That's miserable. Yeah, down here, it's so hot. And then the last 3 weeks, we've had so much rain. We were up at a ranch in East Texas over the weekend, and I mean, they were horrible. And we got ticks up there too. You got the huge ticks up there too when you get out in the woods. And I always get out in the woods, so.
Guys, I gotta wonder. How do you think Sasquatch keeps them off of them? I mean, how do you think they deal with that?
I think because they smell so bad. No, I don't know.
Honestly, my opinion is I think their hair is so thick in a lot of places. And from what I've seen, from the research I've done between Florida and Michigan, their skin is almost like leather. So I would compare it pretty close to hog skin. So I imagine something like that would be pretty hard to penetrate. I'm not going to say that's what it is, but that's my theory on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, and and as intelligent as they are, and the history they have, all the Native American entwined history, it makes me, you wonder if they have the ability to use specific plants for, uses. If they know how to use, probably they know how to use plants for uses that we have no clue about.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I think they're intelligent enough to do that.
That could be a $1 zillion business right there. We find out their secret.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You need to find that out.
I'm in.
So do you both have the same kind of views on what Bigfoot is or represents?
I mean, we go ahead, Josh.
We do share similar theories because that's when we're talking, that's all we really talk about. That's like 80% of the subject we discuss. So yes, our views are pretty well matched.
Yeah, I think so. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that my views tend to move around some. There's just so many different factors involved. There's too many. You got what the people call the woo side, and then you got people just flesh and blood. There's so many witnesses out there that report strange activity, and I've experienced some of it. again, I'm not trying to relate UFOs to Sasquatch. I'm not saying yay or no. I'm no expert in the subject. And but when I was in Oklahoma doing research, I've been out there twice. I did experience a UFO. I don't know what it was, and it was hovering over the mountain where we think the Sasquatch come in from at night. Is there a relationship? I have no clue. I just thought it was odd that I'm out there doing Sasquatch research and I saw something like that.
Can you tell us about what happened? I'd love to hear the story.
Yeah, so basically, where we do on the 2 expeditions I went on, there's a church camp located there, and we stay on the grounds of the church camp. We go back behind the church camp. There's quite a few acres. We really don't have to work at it. They come up to see us at night. Sometimes we'll go back there, have some experiences, then we'll go back up to the camp, and they'll come up into the church camp sometimes. There's buildings, you'll see them. I haven't experienced, but they'll come up with, sometimes some of the researchers will stay in the dorms there, because if there's nothing going on, they'll come peeking into the dorms and stuff like that. We had gone back up. We had quite a bit of experiences down in the woods that night, and it was a group of maybe 7 or 8 of us. We came back up to the camp. There's one section of the camp. It's an area along the fence line where we think they come in along from after they have to cross a road, come down that mountain, cross the road. And they do some gifting. A couple of the guys do some gifting along that fence. So we set a fire up along that fence, had a few things chunked at us through the night. One of the guys just happened to glance up above that mountain and saw something hovering. And next thing you know, we're all watching this thing. It never really moved much. It was lit up. I can't say, I want to say it was sort of circular, but it was night. It was hard to say. But I mean, I sat there and watched it for, I don't know, we watched it for 20 minutes. I never saw it leave. I finally got tired of watching it. I mean, it was just sitting there. It was cool, but I mean, we sat there and watched for 20 minutes. We went on to doing other things. And then next thing you know, it's gone. So I don't know. I just thought that was quite odd. The group that was with the native Oklahoman group, and of course they're very have a lot of spiritual beliefs regarding Sasquatch. So it's always interesting. It's interesting that it's in a church camp, and that even talking to the pastor there, I mean, he talks, he's not into the subject, really doesn't care. He lets that team come up there and do research, but he will talk about some of the weird things that happens up there while he's been up there, But
while he's watching?
Just objects disappearing and showing up at different locations and stuff like that, work, shovels, just stuff, they always have projects going on. So they just have odd, and I think some of the people that come up there have had, sightings driving into the church camp and stuff like that. And, but it's interesting I always find it interesting to talk to people who aren't really interested in the subject, but willing to admit that they encountered some really strange stuff, But anyway, so, but that's also an area that you may have heard. It's an area called Honubby. It's spelled it looks like Honobia is how it's spelled, but it's called Honubby. That is a very active, that whole area, the whole community is aware of them up there. That's also, if you ever heard the siege of Honubby, there's a story about there was a house there that a family was living in, and one of the guys shot a Sasquatch that was raiding their shed in the backyard. And they apparently by the time I got out there to check the next day, these things had been coming in and messing with I think they were storing deer meat or something out in the shed in a cooler or something, and they kept getting raided. They were breaking into every night or often. So they finally got tired of it and ended up shooting one of them. They found blood and all that, but apparently its family came up and took it away. But that's a story I've heard over, I don't remember how long ago, but I've heard the story several times from different sources. So, pretty interesting. But anyway, that area, there's just, Now, there's one other thing that, when we talk about what they are, I've encountered this, and a lot of researchers, I feel like that why is that buzzing? 1 second. Is that noisy?
Yes.
Sorry about that. I've got a recording studio here, and that's one of my speakers.
All good.
Anyway, one of the things, a lot, I've talked to other researcher experiences. I think a lot of researchers are afraid to, talk about some of the things that they experience and things that they see. Probably, when you're trying to prove something like this that exists, that even, in my case, some of my family, I don't even talk about it because they just laugh at me. I sure don't want to go the next step and say, well, not only that, but this, But the ones in Oklahoma, the one reason they're so easy to spot is their eyes have a glow to them. It's strange. Now you hear people talk about different colored glow and different, don't know, could be some natural, who knows? I'm not saying it's anything spiritual, anything because it's alien or anything like that. I don't know. But my experience was what we saw, they do have glow to them. Most of them I saw had just a clear white, kind of not real bright. Sometimes they were hard to spot. But once you spotted them, then you could see both eyes, and you could see them as they turned their head and stuff.
So now, did you experience the smell that everybody talks about?
Never did. And I don't think I ever experienced any audio out there. They were very quiet. They would come around the camp. You would spot them. We would spot them by that eye glow because they'd be watching us. And then we'd just sit there and watch them. And then sometimes, as far out as it sounds, I've noticed with that eye glow, sometimes what I experience, it has like a glitter. It's almost like a starlight effect. Like when a star, how you watch a star and it gets brighter for a second and has a little kind of glitter type. I'd see things like that. So sometimes they're coming down that mountain, they would get, sometimes when you watch them, they'll get bright like that. But I'd notice sometimes when they come down the mountain, you would get a glimpse of that kind of star look because they were coming down the mountain towards us. And that'd be a pretty good ways off. And I guess one of them would get bright for a second. And you would see it as they're between the trees as they're coming down the mountain towards where
Twinkle lights.
Yeah. And now that also takes me to wondering. Now I've talked to other researchers because sometimes I don't like to talk about, but I'm like, I'm just going to say what tell people what I see. They can take it how they want, and believe me or not believe, I don't care. But I've talked to other researchers that once I brought it up, they're like, yeah, I've seen that. So sometimes it makes me wonder if when people talk about orbs, and I'm not saying they didn't see orbs, are they sometimes seeing this eye shine and thinking it's maybe an orb or something else? I don't know.
That's really interesting.
It's just something.
I never thought about that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because if they're, if you got an orb up close, I'm sure it's hard to get it. I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's not going to look like eye shine. But if you got something a ways off, walking in the trees or moving among the trees with eyes that are what I experienced, I can see where somebody might get that mixed up with something floating in there. Just a thought.
Very cool.
Possibility. That's a good possibility. We got to consider all the options here.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm definitely no expert, and I will never claim to be an expert until I've got one, and I've got one out here, hanging out with me.
There you go.
But
bring them in the camera view, would you?
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just it's interesting. There's so many, like I said, there's just so many factors, and that this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that I guess my theories over time, sometimes my theories change. Sometimes I'm like, is this more, are they more, I'm a Christian, so, and I have heard a lot of the theories regarding the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
I lean that way. I lean that way often, and I have some of the researchers I've gone out with are researchers that were part of the Sasquatch Genome Project.
Yes.
And I definitely feel that that's legit. So I do tend to lean more towards maybe the Nephilim theory or something similar to that. But there's other times that sometimes, you hear other people's theories and ideas, and it makes sense. It's like, well, maybe it is a flesh and blood. Maybe they just have some really awesome capabilities that we just don't quite understand yet.
And I think that's totally possible, because some of the things that we experience, or the things that are reported commonly, seem like, well, how is that a possibility unless there is something fantastic going on there sometimes. At least sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's the great mystery, or one of them anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I sometimes wonder if we'll ever get it solved or get an answer to it.
Oh, for sure.
I was watching special, and I followed the Missing 411 series, and have been very interested in that. And one of the a lot of times when David speaks, when people ask him about, well, what's your theory, his answer is, well, go read Hunt for the Skinwalker, and it's about the Skinwalker Ranch and a lot of the strange things that went on there. But I think sometimes there's some relationship between that activity and maybe what's happening in some of the Missing 411 cases. It seems like I'm sure some of those cases are probably turn out to be just natural, normal, reasons, but a lot of them pretty strange. There was a in a couple of the stories, it talks about children that disappear and they turn up 2 or 3 days, young children. And there's a couple of stories where the children talked about the bear fed me, the bear kept me warm. Well, I don't know if y'all remember, but in the news, was it last year, maybe a year and a half ago? You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
I do. I know exactly what you're talking about.
There was a child that disappeared for a couple of days, and I don't remember where this was at. Mississippi? I don't know. I'm just guessing. And it was even in the news, and everybody just blew it off. But he said something about, I want to say the bear took care of him, the bear watched him, or he hung out with the bear. And I mean, I caught on as soon as I heard that. It was, like I said, it was in the news, and even mentioned, and of course they just kind of blew it off, like, just a child's imagination. They didn't have any, but the fact that it was even mentioned, I was like, the first thing that crossed my mind was that.
I mean, what is the possibility that an actual bear would take care of a human child?
I think 0.
Yeah. Very low.
I don't think they're not intelligent enough. I don't think they would be friendly, is my feeling. And I don't. What else could it be?
Yeah. Very awesome. Very awesome.
I know one of the cases. I think the search team heard the child they were looking for yell or something, and came up there, and something large and hairy had jumped into the water and was swimming off by the time they got up there.
A bear wouldn't do that.
No.
I didn't hear that part of the story.
Well, that's not this latest one. This was in Missing 411. That's one of the cases in Missing 411. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was like, I hadn't heard that.
I've read most of those books, and there's so many stories out there. They all kind of run together after a while. But I remember bits and pieces of specific, cases that just stuck in my mind.
Absolutely.
One of the areas that me and Josh has been to in Colorado, have been to in Coneus Valley, Colorado. There was a case about 5 years ago, I think it was. It was a jogger that was jogging. It's that area. It's a resort community only in the summer. You can't even get there in the winter. It's so remote, and it is just saturated with Sasquatch sightings. I mean, it's got a rich history of Bigfoot and Sasquatch sightings, and it's part of the St. Louis Valley, which of course has a lot of mysterious stuff that go on in it as well. But this was I think he was a college kid. They were staying up there, and he was jogging on that Forest Service road and just disappeared. and they didn't find him for months. And they found his body at the bottom of I think some type of cliff, but it was off the road. It wasn't near the road, but there were some mentions of it on the Missing 411 website. I think that was one they were keeping an eye on, but that was that area. Didn't really surprise me, that area. There's just a lot of activity, and I do think some of those are probably Sasquatch related as well in some of those cases. I don't think they're all just fuzzy little bears, fuzzy little monkeys, whatever, friendly.
Well, on that note, we have to take our commercial break, so we'll be
Okay.
right back in 2 minutes. Everybody stay tuned. And Jenna's dancing to her own music again. Awesome. So let's watch the clock.
Can you hear the music, or are you just dancing?
No, she can dance. We can dance on cue.
I thought maybe y'all could hear it and I couldn't.
She says music, and I'm just like, I feel my body move. Move to the music.
Josh, you're gonna have to talk. I'm doing all the talking here.
So
Don't worry, Josh. I know how you feel.
I'm usually a big talker, or Jenna. Jenna can talk forever.
Yeah, but I never say anything. That's the problem.
She'll tell you lots of stuff you don't need to know. Anyway,
I will.
We're still being recorded. Reminder. I have something to tell you guys. Or what if, Jenna and I were coming to the Michigan Bigfoot Conference, and Tammy wasn't going to be able to come because she didn't have anybody to stay with her kids. But now that's changed.
Oh yeah.
And she might be able to come.
That's awesome. It's going to be a good one. I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
It'll be a good one.
I am too. I'm super excited. I want to meet Jason Kenzie, man.
Yeah. It's going to be a good
so
one.
Funny.
Yeah, we're all drawing straws. Who's going to pick who up from the airport?
Well, it looks like I can get a flight that will get there about 7:30 in the morning. So.
On which day?
On the day that you showed me.
Well, actually,
let me look. It was Thursday the 15th.
Can you check the 16th too?
30.
That's the one that you sent me. But yeah, I can send it. I can check the 16th.
All right. So we're 30 seconds out.
Oh, and Ken.
So Norwegian. 30 seconds.
Go.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. This is the Journey Radio Show, and we're the She-Squatchers. Won't you check us out online at She-Squatchers.com, and there you can check out our events page where you can find a list of all of our upcoming events, which are, we're going to be at the ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference. When is that? Next week after? Not this weekend, but the weekend after. We're going to be there. So come out and see us. And then we're going to Duluth, Minnesota to the Para-Unity Conference. And then the next weekend after that, we're going to the Michigan Bigfoot Conference, where our guest tonight will be there as well. And you have to come out and see us there. It's going to be a huge all-star lineup. Everybody go check it out. And the weekend after that, we'll be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Conference in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And then we have a little bit of time off. So go check out to see where we're going to be. Also, please come on over to our YouTube page and subscribe to our channel at She-Squatchers Official. We're still running that race of YouTube subscribers against that other YouTuber. So please help us win. Come on over and subscribe. If you are watching us on YouTube, subscribe. Please, 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 and thank you. And then Tammy would kick my butt if I didn't tell you to come over to Instagram and Facebook and follow us and like us there. Thanks so much. And back to our show, we've got Todd Parsons and his son Josh Parsons. He's fully grown and his own man in Bigfoot research in the state of Michigan. So I want to hear more from Josh. Josh, what's up?
Well, the conference, that's for sure. Excuse me.
What do you want to tell us about the conference? Because I know we're all pumped, and I know who the guests are, but maybe you should tell everybody who they are so they can get as pumped as we are.
Ooh, all right. Well, unfortunately, Carrie Arnold isn't going to be able to make it.
No.
Yeah. So that's he's dropped off, but everybody else will be going.
Okay.
Jason Kinsey,
Yes.
Igor Burtsoff.
Our buddy Igor Burtsov from Moscow, Russia.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet him.
Cliff Brackman
From Finding Bigfoot on TV. Super awesome guy. Love him. Love
and
his
then
wife
Ken
too. I hope she's-
Gearhart, of course,
Ken Gearhart. He's our buddy. We love Ken.
and Adam Davies.
I am super excited to get to know Adam better. That's awesome.
And then I think, did I say Robert Kreider?
No.
No, Robert Kreider. And then Miranda Young and Janice Carter.
Very awesome.
And then, of course, we'll have some of our Michigan speakers, like our very own Val Zavala from the group. And, of course, the She-Squatchers will be there.
We are so excited. Ooh, ooh. Thank you, Tammy. It called for a double whoop.
Josh, oh yeah, double. There you go.
And of course, you can go on the website and check out all the vendors that will be there and all the speakers and MichiganBigfootConference.com. That's the website. It's real easy.
Okay.
You can also purchase your tickets from there. And we also have a speaker sponsor program with 2 tiers. So you can sponsor a speaker, and there are benefits to both of these sponsors.
Well, is there anybody out there that wants to sponsor the She-Squatchers? Because we would love that. And we, of course, would be super thankful.
Because tier 2, you actually get to hang out with the speakers.
Well, hey.
But
Who doesn't want to hang out with the She-Squatchers? I mean, come on. We're pretty cool.
Y'all need to do a photo, set up a photo booth, do photo opportunities.
And then after the conference, hopefully there will be another 168 in Florida in November with Carrie Arner, which the LCC will be a part of that as well.
Very cool. Very cool. I love it. I know that when I was on Carrie's show recently, he talked about maybe having me do some remote viewing for the next 168. So that would be awesome.
That would be great.
Yeah. So I would love to do that.
Yeah, he was very interested in that.
Yeah.
I actually had one of my partners from T.A.A.P.S ask me about the big thicket. Maybe talking to you about doing the big thicket before we go out.
Yeah. When are you going out?
I don't know yet. We haven't scheduled it. Not till it cools down.
Okay, so we've got some time.
Yeah, we have some time.
Okay, we've got some time. All right, so cool. Awesome sauce. All right, so Josh, can you tell us what you think about? Do your views on Bigfoot, are they matching your dad's, or do you have alternative views? Because all of us girls, we have different ideas about things. So.
Well, I'm teetering just like my dad is. I'm coming to the conclusion, from traveling all over the United States and hearing other people's reports. I've like as a kid, I had a strange encounter, Dad. I don't know if you remember this, but we were driving up one of the ridges up the mountains, and I looked down in a valley, and I saw 2 things walking across the valley down there. One was big and one was small. And they were bigger than a human. Of course, my dad, I'm a kid at the time. Dad's like, well, it's probably a bear. But now that I think back on it, I don't think that was a bear. That they moved through that valley way too quick.
It's funny. I do remember that. You were pretty young, but I do remember it.
Yeah, that stuck to me. But that kind of stuff. My conclusion is it's. I feel like it's a little mixture of everything. I think there are some that are a little on the woo side, and there are some that don't have any of these abilities. I saw a lot of. I so badly want to talk about the last Florida expedition because there were so many weird things that we saw, but I can't talk about it until the documentary comes out. Unfortunately, but there was a lot of weird stuff we came across over there that really fell onto the woo side. and here in Michigan, I've seen a little bit of both. Texas, I wish I could do a lot more in Texas, but of course I'm too far at the moment. But I think, yeah, like I said, I think it's a mixture of both. I think there's some that are flesh and blood and some that have capabilities that are beyond our comprehension. Now, whether that means they're supernatural or is that just something science hasn't been able to define?
Well, look at human beings. What would you say about our abilities? I mean, I think all of us, even though people don't know they have them, they do. What would you call that? I'm just curious because I don't know what to call it.
Well, I've just recently come across something that's kind of opened itself up to me that's had me a little worried for a while. A lot of my dreams have been coming true. I would dream about something years before it happens, and it'll happen. And this has been happening a lot more as I get older. And I'm not saying I'm clairvoyant or anything like that. It kind of freaks me out a little bit. Oh, I mean,
if you start dreaming about bad catastrophe stuff happening, you can sure talk to us about that because it doesn't have to be on the radio or anything.
Okay.
Because I know that Tammy and I have both had visions, catastrophe things happening from the future, but we actually had the same visions and we didn't even know each other then.
That's interesting.
When that happened. And so there was one where I heard a voice bellowing from the sky with a command. And it was save the seeds, protect the seeds, preserve the seeds. And Tammy had the same thing.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And for having things like that happen where you're getting advanced, and that wasn't a dream, it was like a vision. Because I used to have prophetic dreams and then it moved into waking visions. So I was awake. So then it's not, well, maybe it was just a dream and it's no longer a question anymore. Once it becomes a waking vision, then it's something's up. But when I started having catastrophe visions, it really turned my life upside down because I didn't quite understand that catastrophe visions are to help guide you to take a different path so that you can avoid the really bad stuff.
Oh, okay.
And so for me, I really had a fit. I'm like, what's the point in doing anything anymore? Everybody's going to die. My husband and my other adopted kids weren't in the vision. I assumed they were dead. So I was all upset. And,
Yeah.
and it really turned my life upside down until I came to understand that those types of things are helpful to us to guide us to take a different direction. And I've had visions of things that were going to happen and they happened 5 days later. And, I gave guidance to the people that were involved in it. I wasn't involved in it. It was something I saw that was going to happen to somebody else. And when it happened, they knew what to do so that it didn't turn out badly. So things like that. So if you start having really bad things coming up, don't be scared. Let's talk about it and figure out what it means.
I haven't had any catastrophe ones. It's always been. I've had them as a kid, and then years later, I just play it off as some kind of weird deja vu. But as I've gotten older, I talk to my wife about it, of course, and she remembers my dreams. And like the job I had now, I dreamed 3 years ago of me getting this job with FedEx. I'm a courier with FedEx.
Hey.
And I actually dreamed about getting the job, and I dream about the exact situation. When I went in the training is when I was like, wait, I dreamed about this. And the exact conversation I was having with that person had happened in my dream. And then lately, Blake is actually trying to get me to pursue this a lot more because I've been dreaming a lot about the woods a lot more lately because my mind has been more focused on the woods and my research and all that. And there was an area we went to that I had dreamed about a couple months ago that I had forgotten that I dreamed about. But when we went there, I'm like, wait, I've been here before and you said the exact same thing in the dream. which is it's kind of been freaking me out a little bit.
Was it almost like you heard them talk a millisecond? You knew what they were going to say like seconds before they actually said it, or was it just a memory of what they said?
I realized it after it was said. It hit me. I didn't know it was going to happen until it happened. I dreamt about the expedition in Florida before I even ever went and even knew I was chosen to go. I dreamed about an exact situation, but the situation actually changed course from what happened in the dream. The beginning part happened, but the end did not. That's never happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know if I want to.
And you don't have
Pursue
to.
it?
You don't have to.
Pursue it or not. To me, it's a little weird because I always kind of just blew it off. Never really talked to anybody about it. Kind of just kept it between me and my wife. And I've just now started being a little vocal about it.
Good. People should be vocal about these things. That's the only way that we can all learn from one another.
Right.
But if you're hesitant, talk to people who already understand that stuff first.
Well, the reason I'm hesitant is because I'm a Christian as well, and that I was kind of always taught that stuff is not always good, in a way, if that makes sense.
I totally get that, but as a person who's had knowings of things in advance of them happening, I mean, there was a time that I had a friend over and she had stayed way too long, and then she was leaving and she had her little boy with her, and all of a sudden, and I was excited she was leaving because she had stayed way too long. It was really time for her to go. But all of a sudden I'm telling her, don't go, stay 5 more minutes. And in my head, I'm arguing, going, what the hell? No, she needs to go. I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
But I kept verbally saying, no, you need to stay 5 more minutes. You're not supposed to go yet. And I didn't know why I was saying that. It just was coming out. Okay. And she wouldn't listen. She wanted to get to the bank. And so she puts her son in the car, straps him in the back seat. She walks around to the other side. And as she does that, I open the car door and take her son out. She's like, what are you doing? And I said, if you're not going to listen to me, you're not supposed to go right now. You're supposed to wait. But if you're going to go anyway, I'm keeping him here. You can come back for him later. Well, she's like, whatever. And she left, right? Well, she didn't come back when she was supposed to come back. And at the time I was married and my husband was mad because we had something going on. And now I have this little boy that I wasn't supposed to have today. And out of my mouth just flew it. I didn't have a thought. I heard myself say it as it came out. And I said, don't be mad. She was in an accident, And I was like, what? So these things just come out. And it's not something you're searching for. It just happens.
Yeah.
And she had been in an accident. She left and she got T-boned. Where the car was totaled, she was absolutely fine, but where her son was sitting was completely crushed. He never would have survived that. So, his grandmother, her mother, was thankful that her grandson was alive, but then she told me to repent because I didn't know where that came from. And I said, that was when I said, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I didn't ask for this. This just saved your grandson.
Yeah.
That to me, if anything, is an act of God intervening. Yeah. So I don't even play that game anymore.
Makes sense.
Yeah. When you're saving people, and you're not looking for that, it just flies out. You don't even know it as a thought before it comes out of your mouth. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about that. And I should probably get off my soapbox now.
I mean, you're not even searching for it. It just happens,
Yes, that's what it would happen. And it's happened before with other things where I was like, go to the hospital now. You have to go now. You're dying. And they have no symptoms. And I'm freaking out and crying. You need to go right now. And they were dying when they found out when they got there that they were dying. If they had waited till there was a symptom, they would have died before they got there.
Yeah.
So, things like that. I wasn't looking for it. It scares the crap out of me when it happens. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's the great power, the creator works through us.
Absolutely. Amen.
So, yeah. So,
hey, I was going to mention to Josh, Didn't you have you had a sighting about 3 weeks ago, right? 4 weeks ago?
Yes, here in Allegan County.
Tell us.
Well, so there's this area that I hunted before I joined the LCC, before I started my podcast, before any of that, squirrel hunting. And I went about halfway down the trail, and I started getting a panic attack for no reason. And I just couldn't figure it out, and I ended up leaving, kind of fast walking out of those woods. It kind of freaked me out, and I didn't know what it was. Well, 3 weeks later, everybody decided to come down, and we went camping, and I said, you know what? Let's go check that area. Well, we ended up walking to that area. I'm trying to be vague because I don't want to tell where it is, because that's like my spot. Anyways, we ended up going down the trail. It was we got there about 10:30. It was dark. We got about around the spot where I had it, and I started having another one. And next thing you know, we start hearing what sounded like footsteps off to the left. And, Blake chases after it. I run further down the trail just in case it tries to loop around in front of us. Well, I ended up meeting Blake on the other side of the woods, and he said he heard something jump down a ridge, because there's a deep ridge way on the other side of the woods that goes down into a creek. It's Swan Creek that runs through Allegan, all of Allegan County.
I'm gonna look that up now.
Oh, Swan Creek's huge. You'd have a hard time finding this. And then this was the day before I had my sighting. We ended up going back the next day because it seemed like a really active area. Well, then the next day we decided to tent camp out there. So it was me, Blake, Chad, and Sherry at the time. I had taken my vehicle, and Chad had taken his truck, and we drove down a little ways deep into the woods, set up tents, and walked down the trail into the spot where we had the activity. We were having the activity the night before. So we heard the footsteps again. This time Blake and me decided to do kind of intimidation displays. So Blake went up to a tree and started knocking limbs off a tree and grunting, and me, I started stomping the ground. And well, right after that, you clearly heard something walking, like it was letting us know it was there, and kind of walking off to the left. And Blake goes, "Do you want to go after it?" Not after what we just did, is what I just said.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Nope, not after what we just did.
It probably looked at you and thought, puny.
Yeah, probably.
Exactly.
Well, the moon was real bright that night. So we weren't using flashlights. We were using the moonlight. And the trail it's thick. It's thick in there. And the trail, during the day, a lot of people well, I'd say a lot, but there are people who will hike it or mountain bike on it. It's a real long trail. Nobody goes out there at night because it's so far into the woods. So at that point, we decided to start heading back to the vehicles. And me, I've always, when I'm out in the woods, I'm always looking behind me. Always, just in case. And I happened to look back on the trail. I looked, and then I did a double take, because in the trail it was pitch black. The sunlight was not shining through. So when I did the double take, I looked and watched this huge thing walk off the trail and off into the woods, and the moonlight came back through. I could see an arm and a huge mass. That's all I could make out. Didn't hear it. Didn't hear it walking, which was really strange to me. Freaked me out pretty good. I basically turned around and went, "Oh crap." Blake's like, "What?" And I told him what just happened. He's like, "You want to go over there?" I'm like, "Yeah." So we walk over there. Didn't see nothing. So we headed back out of the woods, and as we were getting towards the end of the trail, we hear 3 clear wood knocks off in the distance. 1, 2, 3. Like they were letting everybody know they're leaving. Well, after I had seen that, the next day we went out there during the day, and in the leaves are imprints of huge foots, a huge foot leaving the spot where I saw it cross the trail down to the ridge in the leaves. And I'm like, yeah, something was here. Well, while this was happening and we were tent camping out there, Chad had something thrown. We had a fire going, so something had taken a log out of the fire pit because he was in the truck playing music and thrown it at his truck. And the fire was directly behind the truck.
So it was thrown from behind the truck or the side of the truck, like?
From behind, because the truck was backed up to the fire and it was facing forward, and he was in the truck blasting music. Because I guess he was done investigating for the night. And me and Blake were down in the creek, down in the ridge. And
so what did he do after the fire?
Well, he called me. And I think he was a little freaking out trying to get us to come back. But me and Blake are having activity. We could hear stuff walking around us. Blake's talking native to them. They seem to be responding. I have the psionics, the night vision. I happened to turn the night vision, and I saw something that freaked me out as well. I saw a face, and it looked like it kind of morphed into the tree and disappeared. And I was sitting perfectly still, and there was no wind down there because it was down in the creek. We had boots on. We were knee deep in the muck, and we were down there. And as we got in deeper, we found some tracks, and of course, nothing you can cast because it's filled with water, and it keeps filling up with water, and that fun stuff. We heard something huge get thrown into the creek behind where the truck was at, and we were a good half mile away from the truck down in the creek the other way, and we heard it.
That is so cool. Everybody's got to come to the Michigan Bigfoot Conference and check out the rest of that story, because we are at the end of the show, everybody. And so is it MichiganBigfootConference.com? Is that the website?
Yes.
Awesome. Everybody go check that out. Thank you guys for coming on the show tonight. We're going to have you come back and share more with us another time if you would agree to do so.
We would love
Absolutely.
to. We would love
to. Awesome.
Really
you guys are
awesome.
Can't wait to see you in Michigan at the Michigan Bigfoot Conference.
Yeah,
hey, everybody,
come
see us there. We're so excited. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We probably play a repeat next week because we're going to be on the road traveling. The She-Squatchers are on the road again. All right. Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, for coming on.